good Sunday evening to you all out there. I hope you had a wonderful weekend and you're ready for work. I know you're not, but I'm sorry, but I got to say it because it's reality. Sorry about that. Welcome into another episode of the Barking Brown Show. I'm Jacob. That's Nick. Casey is on assignment. He will be back next Sunday. We are brought to you as always by our friends over at Homage, or not Homage. We are brought to you by Homage. You can check our friends at Homage, but we're also brought to you by our friends over at SeatGeek. You can use our promo code Barking Browns, all one word, get $20 off tickets, get some Browns tickets, get some Guards tickets, some concert tickets, maybe some maybe go see a comedian. Maybe I like comedians; those are fun. You can buy some of those tickets and get some money off. But this is pre-recorded. We had to pre-record this, so it's not live, so we won't be able to interact with you guys. So I apologize, but I hope you all are doing great. Hit subscribe, hit that like button. Nick, how are we?
Hey. Well, it's weird to have the sun out right now and that, but I just want to say a very happy Father's Day to all the fathers out there. And that's why, because I'm going to be with my dad, Jacob's going to be with his dad. And so that's why we're bringing this episode to you a little earlier today. But hey, we've got
Casey's a bastard. He went on vacation without us. You believe that? he's the podcast's dad.
He is
the only dad on the podcast, and he did take us on his family vacation.
Man, I'll tell you what.
I guess
we miss you, Casey. But good overall. The office is starting to come together. I'm working on we're gonna have like a Browns flag. We're gonna have a Guardians flag. I know the glare right now is a little strong, but we've got like the Cavs championship and some other various fun things. So we're bringing all that together. With the Bertman's mustard sign is there, and there's, but anyway, that's not important. No, good. We just got mandatory minicamp, man.
Yeah, it's summer break now for the team. We'll get into some more kind of creative topics coming up. In the past, we've done some position previews / reviews on this show in the summer as we were leading up, and I think. It's funny. The reason I even bring that up is I got a memory pop up on Facebook from where I shared an episode last year that was around this time frame. That was a position review episode. It's like, oh, that's right. That's normally. So we'll probably do that. We'll save quarterback for last. But those are probably some episodes you can expect coming up, especially in over the next 6 weeks or so when they're not going to be doing anything. Right. You're going to get probably some random news and things like that. Hope for no news, because a lot of times when you get news this time of year, it's because someone hurt themselves training. So fingers crossed we really don't get anything. Maybe a trade. Didn't Shedeur Smith's trade happen during this time frame? I remember it was it might have been in May actually, but I remember it coming out at a really random Friday.
Yeah.
It was Friday. I know that for sure because I was already into the adult beverages and was not in a situation to go on camera. And it was very sad because I loved the move when it happened, but I was like, I am not.
Right.
I'm not in a position. That was back in our Network 216 days. And so some of our other cohorts were able to, were actually responsible adults and sober at 6 p.m. on a Friday. It was definitely not one of them. So minicamp came and went. There's some things I start this out saying the same thing I've said the last couple of weeks, and that is there's not a ton that you should read into in camp in terms of we're going to talk about Shedeur in the first team reps because I know it's going to be a question. So if we were live, that would be a question that we would be getting. So we will talk about that. But stuff like that, I don't, and I have a reason why I don't believe anybody. Some people think that Shedeur's not getting a fair share as a result, and I don't think that's the case, but we'll get to that. But there's a lot of things that you just don't want to read into. They're doing a lot of different things while installing. So there's going to be 7-on-7 periods where you don't realize they're practicing the quarterback holding onto the ball for 5 seconds. They're, because some people be like, oh, that would be a sack in a real game. It's like, yeah, but they may have been practicing. Hey, what happens if, Shedeur is able to extend the play for 4 seconds, or what happens if Dillon's able to secure, things like that. And we don't know that context. And as a result, we're going to look at some of this stuff and be like, oh, that was bad, when actually it was exactly what Kevin Stefanski wanted to see. It's exactly what, Tommy Rees wanted to see when he called the play, or, whatever it might be. Take all of this with a grain of salt because they have no pads on. Take all of this with a grain of salt because there is a lot of new players that need to learn the system, and the system is changing from what it was, last year. Yes, it is a lot like the traditional Kevin Stefanski offense, but there's going to be some differences here. And as a result, we don't want to read a lot into this because you're getting install, and it's against a bunch of practice squad players. Sometimes there's a lot of players out there that they're throwing against or throwing to that are not going to be on the roster. So take everything you saw the last couple of weeks with a grain of salt. You're very welcome to be excited because it's awesome to see them on the field. And now we're going to go through a little bit of a dry spell, but take everything with a grain of salt.
Right. I just think, you know what? I understand the whole stat tracking thing. Like I get it, right? It's just like we're going a little deeper and deeper and deeper into more and more content. Like that's what the people want. And so I get it. But at the same time,
it's stupid.
You right. It's not something that you can, like, yeah, do I see those great numbers and get a little excited? Sure. But like Jacob said, they're practicing specific situations in a lot of cases. That they're not. It's not live bullets and that type of situation. So while it is kind of fun to see them put those stats out there, even Mr. Homer over here can acknowledge that, like, that's not. I'm not taking a ton away. Like I've seen a ton of comments, like, because Shedeur's numbers are so good that, like, he's getting shafted at not getting the opportunities, and his stats are so good and all that stuff. And it's like you're playing against different players, and you're running different goals. You're running different goals for what they're all trying to do. So I'm not taking a lot away from that, man. Like it is exciting that they're in minicamp, and it is cool to see that, but I just think you can't take that stuff too seriously. You can't. And I've seen way too many, like, knockdown, drag out fights on the internet over this stuff already, and that doesn't make a lot of sense to me.
Yeah, like, there's so much context that you don't see when in camp. Like, people are treating those numbers like a game's numbers, and you can't do that because some of it's 7-on-7 and some of it's 11-on-11, and that's different. It's significantly different between the two. They're in, even on 11-on-11, there's no true pressure because you can't hit the quarterback. It's so, like, you can't treat those. They're not one for one of what the game is. There's context, and the problem is the people that are tracking it are not giving you the context, because there was one that said Joe Flacco got no stats one day, but I saw clips of him throwing.
Right.
And it's because he didn't throw in team, which was fine. But there was stats during not mandatory camp, but voluntary camp. They were tracking some stats of Shedeur when he didn't throw in 11-on-11. So they tracked his stats that time. Didn't tell you they weren't 11-on-11. Told you they were. Didn't tell you they were 7-on-7. But they tracked his stats then. But then when it happened to Flacco, they didn't. And that's my point. You're not getting the whole picture, and the way it's being presented to people is as though it is the whole picture. Mm-hmm. And that's where you're like, okay, come on, we can't do this because it's ridiculous. But and then Tony Grossi received. I'll call it out. I don't give a shit. Tony Grossi received a mailbag question that was like, do you think this is a bad idea? It's getting out of hand and all this and blah blah blah, like, because it's not genuine. It's kind of misrepresentate. It's being like, I don't know, like, taken out of context and stuff like that. And first, Tony starts it off by being like, a mistake. No, you're welcome, which was like the most cocky thing I've ever heard. You're welcome. I'm doing this. And then he was like, and then he went on to blame the readers. Let me pull it up. He went on to blame he went on to blame the readers for not knowing the context that he didn't provide. So it said, everyone will copy now. Anyone who thinks throwing statistics of one OTA practice tilts the QB Derby one way or another is the one making the mistake. We intend to tabulate the throwing numbers through minicamp and into training camp. We'll periodically post the totals. The coaches are doing the same. No, they're not. The numbers are just a piece of data. Also, you have to put the numbers in perspective. Some people thought Shedeur won the day because he was 7 of 9. Well, they were all 7-on-7 red zone. He took very few 11-on-11. In fact, the Browns ran out of defensive linemen, so they were running 11-on-9. How are you supposed to know the context when you're not there?
Right.
He's the one that's supposed to provide that context for you because that's his job. That's why he is there. And he's not providing the context for you and then blames you for not knowing the context.
It's just clicks.
And that's my point.
Clicks,
that
man.
sums up why that shit means fucking nothing.
Right. That's just, they're going to put it out there. Everyone's going to eat it up. It's going to get, like 1 million views, which, like, I get it, right? We're all in like, we all like views. Like, I understand that. But, like, when you're just bold-faced putting stuff out there that has no context and you're flat out admitting that it's, like, not that it's, you're pointing the blame at somebody else. Like woof. Woof.
Yeah.
So okay. Right. So we talk about what, some things that are kind of flimsy, but we can also talk about like actual concrete takeaways. It was nice to see Diontae Johnson out there. I know we had a lot of questions about that. Wearing 16 is a little strange to me, seeing that number out there again.
I didn't actually, I wanted to say, weird enough, I wanted to say something about that because I thought it was kind of weird too. I don't know what number I thought he was going to be, but I saw the number 16 at first, and I was just like, and Diontae is not the biggest guy in the world. Mm-hmm. So it did give me a little, he's bigger than Jalen Darden, I believe, but that's what I immediately thought was Jalen Darden, who had worn that number in the past. So yeah, when I saw it out there at first, I was like, oh my God, that's like really weird. But that's a takeaway that you can absolutely feel good about, because we were talking about it last week. It was like, man, I hope he's there, because it changes the complexity. And there's a lot of people that be like, oh, you're setting yourself up for failure depending on Diontae Johnson because you don't know where his head's going to be. That's fine. I'm not depending on him in a sense. I'm just hopeful. Mm-hmm. I'm hopeful that he can provide some 500 to 600 yards, be that kind of guy. Not, I don't need 1,000 yards. I don't need him to be the number 2. I don't need him to be this or that. I just need him to be kind of someone that can do something, and just because there's a lot of unprovenness in there. Mm-hmm. I'm not optimistic that he'll play at all. Pete Smith is categorized him as somebody that can be here for 2 days, 2 weeks, 2 months, 2 years. Like he could be gone, or 2 hours. Mm-hmm. Like you don't know, because that's just kind of where it is. So I'm not like going to hitch my wagon and be like, the season depends on Diontae Johnson. But if they can get him to be who he is, like you look at how he started last year in Carolina, he was playing some good football. Wasn't necessarily lighting the world on fire, but that offense was kind of a little bit of a mess, at least at the beginning of the year. And Bryce Young was able to put it together after returning. He was benched and he came back. And by then, Diontae Johnson is gone. But if he can play up to his ability of where he's at, like that takes a lot of that helps the quarterback, because he's such an elite separator and creates such an easy target. That would be a huge boost to them. And for that reason, I wanted to see him there. I wanted to be like, okay, it looks like he's at least showing up. He could potentially be in play. I'm not going to bet on it. I'm not betting money that he's going to play a regular season snap, but it changes the complexity of the offense. If right now you're like, yeah, we made that signing and we already know he's not going to do anything because he's not here. He's not showing up. And then that kind of puts you in the mode of like, okay, we're going to have to bet on multiple young guys that have never played, or we're going to have to go out and make a move. And so I was very happy to see him there because I just think that it's a very low risk, high reward situation. And it just makes me feel a little bit better going into the training camp period of time about that position, because he absolutely can elevate the floor and ceiling of that room if he can be who he is talent-wise.
Right, because you look at it and you say, outside of Jerry Jeudy, Diontae is the only real proven NFL wide receiver in that room, right?
Yeah.
Like you've seen flashes from Cedric Tillman, Mikey Trees is kind of giving you something to be a little excited about at times, but then you look at the rest of it and it's like you've got Jamari Thrash and David Bell and that type of situation, and so the wide receiver room looks dramatically different if it's led by Jeudy and Diontae rather than Jeudy and then you move on to Cedric Tillman. So I think it's really, in my opinion, it's a linchpin for the offense. And like, I understand that putting that much pressure on a guy like Diontae, who was on 3 teams last year, is not the ideal scenario. But the point is he's still produced at a meaningful level in the NFL previously when most of the guys in that room have not. And when you're looking at it, I think it just could change the offense as a whole, because in my opinion, you've got 2 running backs in Quinshon Judkins and Dylan Sampson who could be dynamic for you. I think that David Njoku is going to be a playmaker for you. I know he's been a little up and down, but if he can stay healthy, that's a great place to be. Jerry Jeudy's already proven it. So it's like you start to look around the offense and say, we could really get creative if we've got 2 dynamic guys we can rely on in the wide receiver room. And that's not to say like Michael Woods or Cedric Tillman or maybe Jamari Thrash. Jamari Thrash has made some nice catches in camp that we've seen so far. So it's like, but you're in a much better situation if one of those guys steps up in addition to having 2.
Yeah. But then the room becomes deep with contributors.
Right.
If Diontae can be a contributor and then one of those guys do step up, whereas in the other situation, one of those guys has to step up. And that's when you put yourself in a position to fail, is betting on multiple guys taking leaps. Like Tillman was good the last we saw him, but it was only for 3.5 games, right? And then Thrash only got 7 targets and stuff. And it's like, I really like Jamari Thrash. I really like Cedric Tillman. I think they can be solid contributors. But taking the pressure off of them with Diontae Johnson helping would help put them in a position to succeed.
Yep. Especially whatever quarterback you're throwing out there, you're just going to make his life a lot easier. And especially if it's one of the young guys at some point. I think the situation I want to avoid most is where the Browns went with Dorian Thompson-Robinson last year, where he just looked like a deer in the headlights. There wasn't really a running game to support him. And the passing weapons, Jeudy and Njoku were still, good weapons, but it's just like the passing game was non-existent. So I want to do everything to hedge against that outcome as possible. And so there is a scenario, best case scenario, that Diontae, just maybe he was going through some stuff personally last year. Like I know Diontae's never been maybe the most level player, but he still was productive in Pittsburgh before all of this stuff happened. He was their best receiver for a good chunk of time there when Antonio Brown left, right? And so then they trade him away, and then all of a sudden the wheels really come off the wagon for him. Maybe it's just a bad year. I don't know. These guys are humans. They got stuff going on outside of football. I don't know. But the point is, we've at least seen him be a staple of an offense. And so it's like, if in the best case scenario, he becomes a staple of the Browns offense, and then all of a sudden it's like you got Jeudy and Diontae, who are both tremendous separators, tremendous route runners. I think that plays so well in Kevin Stefanski's timing offense. Like I could see the best case scenario for him, and it's hard not to get excited about it.
Yeah, absolutely. It just puts you in a great, unique situation. I think we're going to take a brief break here.
Okay.
Did you see my message?
Oh, no, I didn't, but I can. Hold on. Just one second. Okay.
And we're back from our break that you didn't realize we took, but we took. Anyway, all right. We were talking a little bit about Diontae Johnson. You mentioned a guy I wanted to talk about that's kind of caught some eyes, Jamari Thrash. I really think if he is not like depended on, like he's put in a position where he's like so here's the way, in an ideal world, let's say Diontae Johnson becomes a contributor. This is how I would say the order of targets, including the tight ends. This is not going to be including the running backs. And Dylan Sampson and Jerome Ford specifically, I think, are going to have some very big roles. Like, I think both of them could catch 20, 25 passes maybe a piece. Like, both, like you could see like 40 to 50 receptions to the running backs this year very easily, I think, kind of between them, because I think they could do some things in the open field and whatnot. But so I'd have Jeudy at 1. I think David is 2. I think in an ideal world, it's Cedric Tillman at 3 and Diontae Johnson at 4. So that's 4. Yeah. Diontae Johnson at 4, Harold Fannin at 5.
Ooh.
Yeah. You could easily, by the way, put Johnson at 3, or Johnson could be 3, 4, or 5. He could be anywhere in that range. I think Harold Fannin becomes 5, and then 6 will be back to the wide receiver room. So something where Jamari Thrash is probably the 6th or 7th most targeted player on the team, that would be awesome for him, because he's had a really nice camp. He looks fast. He looks healthy, looks reliable. And I just love the short area explosiveness and the way he can kind of create after the catch. Him and Harold Fannin, I wanted to give Harold Fannin a shout out. Both of them have looked really good, real smooth, just kind of catching everything. I think because of where he went to school and because we're talking about the quarterbacks, we're not talking about Harold Fannin enough, man. That dude after the catch is a problem. An absolute problem after the catch. And I'm very excited to see what he could do. But, like, yeah, in an ideal world, Jamari Thrash and Harold Fannin, they're like 4th, 5th, 6th, somewhere in that range, as opposed to them being 3rd and 4th. You know, like, you got to bump them up if Diontae Johnson doesn't make the roster. But, like, I think Jamari Thrash and Harold Fannin are both guys that are super creative after the catch, that had good camps. I cannot wait to see what they do when the pads come on. But those are 2 guys that I wanted to give quick shout outs because I thought they looked really good in camp. I got some more shout outs, but do you got any shout outs that anybody that caught your eyes, or some comments about Harold Fannin?
Yeah, I just, you know what, when I think about Harold Fannin and I think about the Browns going back to Kevin Stefanski's offense, I think about the 3-man rotation the Browns had at tight end with Austin Hooper, David Njoku, and Harrison Bryant. Was it Harrison Bryant? His third? Yeah. Okay. And you know, when you combine those 3 in that year of Kevin Stefanski's offense, that had some pretty good stats. I'm really intrigued to see if we find Njoku and Harold Fannin on the field at the same time, because we've seen I'm expecting that at least. And we've seen Kevin Stefanski, you know, really want to get multiple tight ends involved. So I understand Fannin's a rookie, but he was so productive. Like, he led in college tight ends, he led in everything. And I understand he went to Bowling Green. I get it. But at the same time, he showed just the ability to be that pass catching threat that I think the Browns have really needed. Like, David Njoku is a rock solid option, but Fannin, in my opinion, just brings a different set of skills to the table. And it's like you drafted him into the perfect situation where Fannin doesn't have to be the inline blocker that David Njoku is. And I just feel like that is a real opportunity. And you know what? Lately, we've seen rookie tight ends, young tight ends be productive right out of the gate. So Fannin is probably one of the guys I'm most excited about. And I do agree, he's gotten lost in the conversation. Like, the quarterback stuff just dwarfs everything.
Everything.
Right. And
including Mason Graham, including the 5th overall pick.
Yep. Just like, it's crazy. This is such a strange camp, but I am excited.
Like, I remember it is so strange.
I remember when Jamari Thrash was drafted, and we looked at that and we said, "Hey, this guy's got some dynamic breakaway speed, that type of thing. I think that could be interesting. They've tried to use that shot receiver in a bunch of variations of Kevin Stefanski's offense while we've been here. Maybe Jamari Thresh is that guy this year. He could be.
I think I want to write about Jamari Thresh this week on the OBR. I keep thinking about it, and I keep not doing it. But, yeah. I mean, he's a full-court guy.
Right. And Kevin Stefanski's going to have a shot player, right? Like, Jamari Thresh probably fits that role best, does he not?
He's up there. Him and Jeudy. He's probably about the same speed as Jeudy. But the short area explosiveness is the biggest part for me with him. He does have the long speed, yes, but he gets off the line of scrimmage so quickly. And then he's got some really nice athletic ability, like in the open field. One more thing about Harold Fannin. They used him everywhere at Bowling Green. They used him as the Wildcat quarterback, as the running back, as the fullback, as a power slot. So we talked about some concerns about the wide receiver room, and there still are concerns that like we said, especially if Diontae Johnson doesn't pan out, the concerns are even bigger because you're betting on people that are not proven, like you said, Nick. It's Jerry Jeudy.
Yeah.
But part of the reason I think they didn't draft one was Harold Fannin. I foresee Harold Fannin playing a good amount in the slot as a power slot wide receiver. So I do believe they're going to put him out there, and it'll help supplement the wide receiver room because I think he'll be a big part of the passing game. I just think he will. What about Dawand Jones, man? We said it before, and I just wanted to say it again because reading and listening to the OBR's legend, Fred Greetham, he's talked about it. He's like, Dawand looks really good in terms of the way he's moving. Again, and Fred even said this, they're not in pads. So it's really, really hard to get a gauge on offensive and defensive linemen until they have pads on. I remember one time, dude, we were at training camp. First year we ever went to first training camp we ever went to together. It was the first year we were doing the show, which would have been 2021, actually. Wow. It would have been 4 years ago.
Yeah.
I was impressed by some of the flashes and things that I was seeing out of some of the defensive, like a couple of the rookies and undrafted free agent defensive linemen. And they ended up not panning out because, well, they were flashing without pads on, and then the pads came on, So I like I said at the beginning of this episode, we take a lot of this stuff with a grain of salt, but Dawand being down, he says 20 pounds of fat. I'm willing to bet it's more. Now, I do think he's probably packed on some muscle, so his weight probably went down and then went back up, which is something I've experienced. I've been in the gym now consistently since September, and so I had the drop and then the raise and then a little bit more drop and then a raise because I was packing on muscle. So that might be why he said 20 pounds, because I think he's lighter than that. I think he missed compared especially if we're talking just about fat loss. I don't think he's given himself enough credit. I think he's done more than what he's saying he did. And everybody that's there is he's moving well. His cardio is better. He's not running off the field like we've seen him do in past camps and things. And so with what little bit we can gauge from offensive linemen, it was last year, you remember the team, Jason Tarver specifically challenging JOK to put on some weight. They were like, we need JOK. He just needs to be bigger to survive at the position because there's just a lot going on in that size. And it was something that had to happen. Well, he did it. This was something that had to happen for Dawand, but you still get credit for doing it because a lot of people have to do things and then they don't fucking do them.
Right.
And so I just wanted to kind of shout that out because I think it's significant. And while I still hesitant to believe rather he can establish himself as the franchise left tackle, my God, would that be awesome if he could, though.
Right. You know what? And it's nice. It's so nice to have Joel Bitonio back for what I think is the final ride here. But, the way you've looked at the Browns offensive line in recent years, it was you know what you're going to get out of your guards. Yeah. Ethan Posick had a dip last year. He's played at a high level, then struggled. So we'll see where that goes. But personally, you felt better about the interior three of the offensive line. And then it was like, okay, but are the tackles healthy? Like, I just feel like that's been the prevailing question. I mean, Jedrick Wills isn't even going to play. I know he's not a Brown anymore, but Jedrick Wills is still not healthy or whatever that situation is. But then, you saw it with Conklin and Jones. And so I just think that the key to getting the Browns back to where they need to be offensively, and by that I mean running the ball first and building the rest of the offense off of that, because that's where we've seen Kevin Stefanski. That's Kevin Stefanski's bread and butter. He builds the offense through running the ball and then goes from there with deception and all kinds of other things. So if Dawand Jones, because and luckily Jack Conklin's healthy now. If Dawand Jones is healthy, then all of a sudden you look at that and you say, hey, we could have a, like, I don't think it's going to be the 2020 offensive line. I'm not here to say that, but if you could you be a top 12 offensive line? Can you be in the upper third of the league? Because I think you have enough running back talent that you can be highly successful with an offensive line that can be in the top 12. And that's really what I'm looking at right now is a lot of people have low expectations for the Browns this season, and I understand why. But we saw the run game be so dominant early in Kevin Stefanski's tenure that I just think if the offensive line can get back on track and they can do that, I really think the offense can be a lot better than people are currently giving it credit for.
And I think part of it is going to be like how bad it was last year. It could look even better than it actually is just by being competent.
Right.
There's this thing. So a lot of attention is being paid to Jerry Jeudy, who looks like that dude again in camp. Like he's that dude. And I think one thing I kind of, and maybe I just wasn't reading into it enough last year, but I feel like the confidence that he radiates this year is on another level after he went out and, he gets traded and he gets the contract extension, and like there was a lot of bad blood with Denver and how they used him and some things like that. And then he goes out there, especially when he gets that chance in prime time to show Denver that they were dumb, that he is incredibly talented. And I was talking to my brother about this yesterday. Like he had like 300 receiving yards through 7 games with Deshaun Watson. He finishes over 1,200 yards, but half of his season was quarterbacked by Deshaun Watson and DTR.
Just bonkers.
Just think if it's average. Think if they get average quarterback play. So I was doing the math. If the quarterback position throws, and I want to bring this back up so I do it correctly. If the quarterback position throws for 250 yards a game, if that's what the Browns average, that's 4,250 passing yards. I think 1,800 go to Jerry Jeudy.
That doesn't seem outlandish.
Maybe not 18. 16. I would say 16. 18's a lot. I see 1,500 to 1,600 yards from Jerry Jeudy if the quarterback play can be average consistently. Because he looks like a dude that's just like, he has arrived. But I also don't think he's just out there going through the motion because he has arrived. Like sometimes that happens. People are like, I've arrived, I can just show. No, he looks like he's still out there working his tail off, but you can tell he feels good because he went out and he showed you the upper echelon of the player that he could be. He went out there and he did it. So like really excited about Jerry Jeudy. I mean, you just kind of, you talking about the offense being better. And I just thought to myself, Jeudy taking it to another level is something I can foresee, and that would take it. And that would.
Right. Because think about him mentally, man. It's like you're in college, you dominate. I don't remember, the Broncos took him what in the first round?
15.
I want to say, yeah, I know it's the top half of the first round.
Yeah, I want to say. I think it's 15, but I'm fine.
Okay. Let's say for the sake of argument, it's 15. You know, the Broncos take you 15.
It is.
Yeah, there you go. Boom, nailed it. But the Broncos take you 15 overall, and your career just does not take off there in Denver. You got like Steve Smith Sr. nationally just calling you dog shit. You've got Mark Schlereth just saying Jerry Jeudy's never going to be anything on the way out the door, and just all the deflection from Denver as being the problem there, and so then most people were pretty like. I remember when the Browns paid Jerry Jeudy that contract, which now looks like an absolute theft, by the way. Like,
yeah, after getting 1,200 yards, like 1,200-yard receivers don't make that little bit of money.
Right. And so the Browns are being nearly universally knocked for paying Jerry that money because everyone was like, what has he proven? What's he going to do? And that is one of the probably the best Andrew Berry contracts that he's given out. I know Barry's taken a lot of fire for his mistakes, but you got to give him the same credit for his wins. And that Jerry Jeudy contract is one of the best. For a 1,200-yard wide receiver, that's an interesting tweet that we could probably look at. It's like, what?
I'll tell you. Go ahead.
Like take a look at it, you know, like separated in tier of like 1,200 yards and above, right? And what they make on an average yearly basis. I bet you Jerry Jeudy is half as much as the like. I think Ladd McConkey's in there. He's on a rookie deal, so obviously that's going to bring it down. But of guys that have gotten an extension, right? Of guys, of veterans that you're paying for, you know, that type of known production. I bet Jerry Jeudy is just leaps and bounds a better value than any of them.
Do you want to know what his cap number is this year?
Yes.
7.9.
Come on.
And they have void years. The Browns love to use void years.
Yeah.
So his first year that he won't be here is 2028, and he has a cap number that year of $28 million. But they can cut him, and then it only end up being $9 million in dead money. They just basically, yeah, they could extend him too. But they in 28, 29, 30, and 31, they're paying part of his bonuses being paid in that time. But his cap number for for counting 2024 and his whole extension, his cap number is $65 million over the course of 5 years.
That's bonkers for wide receivers. Like wide receivers get like you know Devontae Smith, Jalen Waddle.
What did Calvin Ridley get?
Oh man, more than Jeudy, I think. That's a good question.
Calvin Ridley got 4 years, 92.
Oh man, yeah. What did Jeudy get? Like 4 years, 57 or something.
3 for 72.
3 for 70. Oh, okay. So I'm off on that.
But his Calvin Ridley's cap number this year is 28.
Yikes.
Which is almost 10% of the cap. Jerry Jeudy's percentage of the cap is less than 2%.
And that's why I just think, like, Jerry Jeudy's still young enough. I think this is his age 26 season now, if I'm not mistaken. Pretty sure this is going to be his age 26 season. He's young enough where if this keeps going, he can get extended again. They can play with that money and kick the can further down the road, you know, because everybody's always like, oh, well, you got to pay the piper eventually. And I understand with the Deshaun Watson contract's a little different, but the cap goes up every year, right? Because the NFL is just a money printing machine. So it's like today's dollars are worth less in the future than they will be, right? So it's like fine to push some of that money down the road because the average player salary just goes up as the cap goes up. So it's a game that the Browns are going to win in the long run.
Yeah, he is. He's 26.
Okay, yeah. So he's 26. He's still right in entering his prime, honestly.
I just wanted one more thing kind of touch up, and we'll kind of wrap this thing a little bit early this week, just unless we've got anything else we want to talk about. I just got one more thing, and then I'll give it to you for whatever else you've got. I wanted to touch on the thing that I think is why Shedeur, some people are thinking he's slighted because of some of the reps, and I just want to touch on that.
Okay.
One thing that we don't know is what's going on inside the facility and not on the practice field. My assumption, and I base this on an educated guess, is that Dillon Gabriel's ahead of him in the film room. That's what I think. When it comes to them in the film room, studying the playbook, commanding a huddle. Now, that doesn't mean that I'm not saying Shedeur's struggling or doing bad. I just think that Dillon's ahead of him in that. Dillon's played more football. He's older. Right. Nobody's ever started more collegiate games than him. You expect in terms of their strengths and weaknesses, that is what I would expect to happen, is Dillon being ahead of him on the mental aspect. Although it won't be like that for long, because I think Shedeur's the mental, he put from the shoulders up. Shedeur's he's no slouch. I just think that Dillon's probably a little bit further in there in the film watching and that kind of side. And I think that's why he's out there getting it. Make no mistake, if Shedeur continues to perform like he's performing on the practice field, especially once we get to like joint practices in the preseason, those reps are going to come.
Yep.
They're going to come. I just think you got to understand that this is the crawl phase. Phase 1 and phase 2 is the crawl phase. This was more the walk phase before they get to the running phase. I just think that that's probably where it is. I think he's just probably ahead of him in that area. And that's not me knocking Shedeur. I think Dillon Gabriel's seen more defenses. He's done it at 3 different programs. He's done that's the I love his processor, because Dillon Gabriel always has answers to the question. Always has answers. And that's why he's able to succeed even with his physical limitations. So that's what I think is going on. And do I think Shedeur will catch up? Yeah, I do. Flat out, plain and simple. They're given homework when they go home for this summer break. And I think Shedeur's probably working on it as we're talking right now. He's probably, it's Father's Day. He might be celebrating Father's Day, but, with his famous dad. But, that's what I think is going on, is there's something inside the building on that side of it where Dillon's ahead of him. So they're out there getting used to it. And then as Shedeur catches up and as they get closer, when they have to make a decision on because they're going to have to move on from one of them. Not the rookies necessarily, but one of the 4.
Right.
One of the 4, they're going to move on. So they're going to need to ramp up all of them at some point, giving them the reps to be like, okay, yeah, Shedeur is going to be a guy. So even though we may not play him that much to start the year, we feel confident if he has to play, so we can move on from Kenny. That's kind of where I think it gets to. And I think they feel good that Dillon Gabriel on the mental side of things, that he's further along. And then I think Shedeur will catch up. And then I think the quarterback room ends up being Flacco, Gabriel, and Shedeur. Not saying if that's the order it'll be or whatnot, but I think that's what the roster will be. But that's my guess. That's my educated guess based on what I know about both players and how the organization operates. That's what I would guess is the reason that those reps aren't there yet. But I do believe they are coming.
I very much agree, because you got to keep in mind that Dillon not only has he played more football, but he's played more consistently at higher level programs. Like, he didn't come from Jackson State, right? So it's like Dillon, not only has Gabriel played more football, but he has had to learn multiple offenses, multiple schemes, multiple, terminology, just more. He's done it more. And so I would be surprised if Shedeur was already ahead of him. But I did.
Just to that point, Dillon's got a higher floor. Shedeur's got a higher ceiling.
I think that's fair. That's fair. And something that, they've been sure to call out is at OTAs and minicamp now, you see Sanders staying after, throwing more, working with guys, that type of stuff. And so when you say, Jacob, that they're given homework to go into this break with, it's like, if Shedeur tackles that homework, that type of stuff with the same energy that he's clearly giving to staying after practice, to working on more, I think he will get there, because the throws that are on display from him especially, but I do want to give Gabriel his credit too. But from Shedeur specifically are just beautiful. He has some passes that are, and I get it. No pads. You're working on some stuff, and it's very different when the live action happens. But please keep in mind that, Jacob and I have been to camp multiple years, and we're always watching all these videos and all that stuff. And I just think about even last year with Deshaun, his deep balls were always shaky. They were always shaky, and
they were not tight. They were never tight spirals.
And you'd hear talks about how his passing was shaky, and you don't hear that about Shedeur or Dillon for that matter, because Dillon's got a nice arm too, but stronger than Shedeur's, I would say. And so I just think that it looks different. It looks different, and so we're gonna see as they put on the pads and all of that. But you at least see the extra work, the work ethic, and for the record, I just want to chime in on what you said. I also agree. I feel like Joe Flacco, if anything, like he wasn't even being given all those reps. He's kind of getting the starter treatment, in my opinion. Would you say that's fair, or is that just speculation, Jacob?
I would say that's very fair, just because we've talked about it. Casey's talked about it, where why I think they can go into camp with these 4 quarterbacks is because they don't have to give a lot of reps to Joe Flacco. Right. And we've literally already seen it. We saw it this week where it's like, yeah, he's out there, he's doing what he's doing, but like they're going to want to save his arm because he is over 40. And I think they're still open. They're still open even to Kenny Pickett. I don't think that's going to happen, but like I think they're open to Kenny Pickett, Dillon Gabriel, Shedeur. I think they're open to any of them starting.
All the fun. I believe.
Sorry, I was trying to mute myself so I didn't cough in all of you guys' ears. But I think they're still open to all of them. But I think it's clear that Flacco's, to them at least, Flacco is ahead of the pack, at least a decent bit ahead of the pack in terms of going to be ready right now. Doesn't mean things don't change in the next couple of months. Right. I still think Joe goes into the week 1 as the starter. And then, I mean, if they're winning and he stays healthy, he starts the whole season. I don't know if he can do that at his age. But I do think there's a good chance that those rookies, with what they've shown so far, will make the team feel comfortable where their backups are rookies. Because there's a lot of conversation from some very smart people out there, like Jake Burns has talked about this and Jared Mueller, where they're like, I don't know if they want to go into the season with a DTR situation like they did a couple of years ago, where they were 1 snap away with one of these rookies. I think both of these rookies have way higher floors than DTR, and I think they're more pro ready, because even if Shedeur or Dillon are not going to be elevators as rookies, I still think they can be point guards and they can run Kevin's offense, the play action, the get the ball to the guy, get this throw. Especially Dillon, actually both of them are really, really good at this. If you give them an easy answer, they're going to find it and exploit it, and Kevin can do those things. So I think that the rookies are going to make them comfortable with them being the 1 snap away from playing. But yeah, Joe seems to be getting the starter treatment, and that's how I would guess the season starts.
I very much agree, and it's going to be interesting to see how everything plays out, and it's like now we got a gap. I think one of the things I'm most curious about this year is how much camp Jacob and I are going to be able to go to, because we're definitely going to be creating a lot of content on our takeaways. I'm hoping that our good friend Andy Manchin isn't in international waters and unable to get camp tickets this time. That would be pretty cool.
That's still one of my favorite stories of all time, that we didn't go to camp because he was out of the country and the internet messed up and he couldn't get the tickets on time and they sold out.
Right. So we're going to see. And also I think it's pretty cool that the Haslams are building a new Browns facility, and out of that, Berea Mid Park is going to get a whole new high school football field. I don't know if you knew that part, Jacob.
Yeah, that's really cool. And then there's that really good training facility provided by University Hospitals. I think that is going to be they're listening, man.
Yeah.
And listening to their team, and they're like, yeah, we didn't have enough. They hired more trainers because part of the report card was that they didn't have enough training staff. Now they got more. They also moved on from people that had been there for a long time on the training staff, because obviously there's issues with how things are getting done. But
right. But I just wanted to say In recent years, it's been increasingly difficult to get camp tickets because it's not a huge seating area, right? You can only cram so many fans in there. So I'm hoping that when they're done with this facility, maybe camp can have even greater access to everybody, and it won't be so difficult. And we've got a little water hashira there, yeah. And so I just want to, check that baby out. If you haven't seen Demon Slayer, you should. So we are going to be we're going to be doing position reviews, but we're also going to be dipping into some fun stuff as well, which pissed off, by the way, because finished season 2 of My Hero Academia on Netflix. They don't have any more seasons. What the hell is that? Apparently they do on Hulu. We'll talk about that another day. Yeah. But I just want to say to everybody, thank you for watching and joining us. And we will be back to being live next week. If you click that like and subscribe button, we'll love you. And we really appreciate it because it helps support us more than you know. And we're just trying to build this into something special, man. And so I keep thinking about this Brown season, and I trying really hard not to get over the top because I know how I can be. But at the same time, there's potential here. And we're going to break it all down. We're going to go through the position groups. We're going to do our final roster predictions at some point, get some bets going. And just a thought, I don't know what you're doing on Thursday night, but there might be a great episode of All Eyes on Cleveland coming up with a couple of handsome gentlemen from this show on. So if you have some free time, I think that would be a good episode for you to tune into. With that being said, this has been a Father's Day, happy Father's Day to all of you out there, edition of the Barking Brown Show. And Nick, wow, I messed that up. He's Jacob. Go Browns.